D-Lo 404 Boxing. All right, y'all. So y'all see the title. The only guy that can beat Oleksandr Usyk in the heavyweight division is Tyson Fury. Why is it that every time we see a guy come out and have a solid win, the first thing fans start saying and media start saying is nobody can beat this guy, or the only person that can beat this guy is X, or the only person that can beat this guy is Z, or this guy will only take a loss when this happens to him, or when he gets this old. It's like, it's without fail. Guy goes out and gets a solid win, all of a sudden the guy's invincible. Nobody can beat him. Oleksandr Usyk had a great night against Anthony Joshua. He dominated that fight. He could potentially dominate the rematch and win again. That does not take away from his body of work at heavyweight. I'm not trying to take credit away from Oleksandr Usyk. He deserves all the credit in the world for how he went out there and dispatched of Anthony Joshua. But when you start talking about this guy cannot be beat in the heavyweight division unless it's by Tyson Fury, or even if you say the only guys that can beat him is Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder, or if you say the only guy that can beat him or is one of these three guys or whatever, I feel like that's an exaggeration. That's too much speculation. And it's just too much unknown when it comes to boxing to make those type statements about anyone with certainty. You know, one thing I will say, Usyk has a nice skill set. He's a southpaw, so that works in his favor as well, depending on the opposition. But we saw Chaz Witherspoon. I don't know where. I heard Chaz Witherspoon working at Walmart. I don't know how true that is. And I'm not saying that as a joke. I remember hearing that, and I took it seriously because the guy hadn't been seen in boxing in years at that point. But Chaz Witherspoon, who probably had his best days years earlier before his fight with Chris Arreola, when both of them were pretty much like prospects on the cusp of becoming contenders. If you think back to how long ago Arreola was a prospect, that was the last time Chaz Witherspoon was considered a threat in the heavyweight division. And we saw Usyk fight this guy and was basically getting outboxed until the guy went to the corner and couldn't go anymore because his conditioning wasn't there, because he wasn't training for a fight. He got the call in the 11th hour and said, yeah, I'll show up and I'll give it my best. We saw long past it, long faded Derek Chisora push Usyk to the brink in a fight. You know, it was no domination in that fight. There was no real clear separation between him and Usyk. So looking at those two fights and looking at how he performed against Joshua, that encompasses his body of work at heavyweight. You can't throw away the other two performances and just say, oh, those are filling out fights. This is what he's going to look like at heavyweight. This is Usyk at heavyweight. It doesn't work that way. You know, what Usyk is at heavyweight falls somewhere in between what we saw versus Chisora, what we saw versus Witherspoon, what we saw versus Joshua. You can't just take the best performance of a guy, any fighter. You can't take any fighter's best performance in a division or in their career and say this is who he is. It always falls somewhere in between his best and worst performances. And we got two performances that were ho-hum, and then we got one great performance. I'm not going to sit here and crap all over Joshua for the sake of building Usyk up. I'm just going to say, or even for the sake of tearing Usyk down, I'm just going to say that stylistically, it was a good matchup for Usyk, and Usyk went out there and executed his game plan. But I'm not going to get on the gas and start talking about this guy can just run through the heavyweight division after I've already seen what I've seen on him. If every opponent he fights comes out and fights like Joshua did, and he fights the way he did, hell, he's going to be hard to beat. But if guys come out there and come with a good game plan, and they're not looking like Joshua looked, and the Usyk isn't looking like he looked in that performance, go have a rough night. It's not like Joshua wasn't touching this guy. he got hit plenty. And you know, he wasn't the most elusive. He didn't have stopping power in there versus Joshua, or he would have had Joshua on the canvas a time or two. So I'm not gonna take the bait and get on the gas and just start celebrating this guy as the second coming of Vladimir Klitschko or Vitaly Klitschko or something like that. Those guys had long, dominant reigns and looked unbeatable at times throughout their careers at heavyweight. But I'm not gonna anoint this guy as being that. He's not that right now. And based on the body of work put before him, it's not there. Let me say this, and I'm gonna end the video. The guy came up from cruiserweight, and he wasn't just knocking guys out left and right at cruiser either. So I'm not gonna sit here and discount him for not knocking people out and say, you know, that means he's less than at heavyweight. He has a good skill set that works for him.